Thanks for tuning in to Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. We're on episode 137. I am Josh Roop. With me, my co-captain, as always,
Scott Larson.
And Scott, new game released.
New game release, absolutely. So if you are looking to pick up your John Wick, go ahead and reach out to Zach Minnie at Flippin' Out Pinball. He can definitely hook you up, and I am excited to see where this game's going. Certainly get in on the ground floor. Possibly still have some LEs, premiums, and pros you can get on the list. And if you're looking for any other game, reach out to Zach and Nicole Minnie at Flippin' Out Pinball, and they can help you out.
Definitely. We have a very special episode today. I know we just recorded a couple days ago, but with John Wick releasing and kind of a media push for this, we were able to have George Gomez come on, and this man has pretty much shaped the direction of pinball, at least modern pinball, within the last 30 years directly, and he's been in the industry for about 46 years. And I mean, without George, I don't know if we wouldn't have classics like Monster Bash, Lord of the Rings, just these games that have defined what people want in their homes over the last 30 plus years. So thanks for coming on, George. How you doing?
Hey, he also runs a lot of things at Stern Pinball, just FYI.
Just FYI.
Thanks a lot, guys. Glad to come on. We live in interesting times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, the last couple of days since we launched Wick has been a bit of a whirlwind. Game launches are, first of all, they're a buzz of activity in so many ways, right? You've got the design team there's a lot of anxiety about how the game's going to be received, but they have a lot of responsibilities relative to I'm in my office here at Stern Pinball, and 100 feet that way, there's an assembly line cranking out John Wicks. And so, those guys have been, they've got to get, they've got to interact with manufacturing, check games, make sure the games are being built right, teach people how to build them, all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, we're dealing with the PR for the game, launching the game, all that kind of stuff. So it's been, it's just been, we haven't stopped. Tonight at 4:00, tune in. We're live streaming the game, and I think hopefully that will answer a lot of questions for people.
Now, we are recording this, so they're probably not going to get this in time. However, tell us when that is, and we'll shoot it out on our socials.
Yeah, it'll be on the Stern YouTube channel for sure.
Okay. And today at 4:00?
Yep.
Central Standard Time.
CST, so Central, so they'll start, those guys will start. I'm going to join them when we free up. I'm going to walk into the stream.
Perfect.
Gotcha. Okay, George, so we know the new game that you guys have released is John Wick. So Can you walk us through John Wick and tell us the philosophy behind what you're trying to accomplish in this game and what you're trying to offer the player and the owner in having a John Wick game?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the franchise, the essence of the franchise is, this assassin, John Wick, and all of the things that happen to him. It's a sort of a revenge and redemption game. He's a guy that's retired and he's being brought back in. The films are incredibly popular, so it's an action franchise, and we decided, hey, let's do this. The game pretty much mirrors, the events of the films. We have film footage from all four films. There's been, as you guys know, lots of controversy relative to the gun issue on Wick. So I'll tell you a couple. I will tell you, I'm happy for this opportunity because it's much easier to discuss these things in this forum than it is to constantly be answering Facebook posts about speculation about what it is and what it isn't, right? So at the crux of this matter, because there's a bunch of guys out there going, well, I see John Wick toys that have guns, and I see video games that have guns, and John Wick video games, and how come you guys can't have guns? And so at the crux of this is the fact that every one of those toys comes with a disclaimer that says, 18 and over. the video games come from a rating system with a rating system. So when Lionsgate asked us, is there a pinball rating system? We said no. And where do the games go? Well, some percentage of the games go into commercial locations. That means that anyone can interact with them, anyone can walk by them, 10-year-old or 5-year-old, whatever. And so they said, okay, you guys fall into the all ages category. So the all ages category means that we have to adhere to certain guidelines, and those guidelines are we don't want to see any guns on any of the art on the exterior surfaces of the game. Now, once you press start, because there's a lot of confusion about this, because I've said, we've got all the gunplay in the films because we've got film footage from 4 of the films. So, how is it possible that you can't have 2D art of John Wick with a weapon, but you can have video art, video footage from the films of people getting shot up. So the point is that once you hit start, you've made a conscious choice to interact with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, if you're a 10-year-old, maybe your mom wasn't looking and you did it, but the reality is that mom is supposed to have given you permission to do this. So it's not any kind of a political statement on behalf of Stern Pinball relative to guns, even though that conversation has spun off into the bigger conversation that's happening in our country about guns. Right? I'll tell you that in 2017 when I did Deadpool, Marvel said to me, all the weapons in Deadpool must be fantasy blasters. Even though, like when you look at the NECA Deadpool, which I have, which Jeremy Packer gave me when we finished the project, right? He's got real weapons.
Yeah.
He's got replicas of real weapons, right? And so, but in the case of the pinball machine, and all these licensors, by the way, are the common thread is they have a sensitivity to how weapons are portrayed.
Sure.
But the rules are different. So in the case of Marvel, they said, as long as they're fantasy blasters, we're okay. And Jeremy drew fantasy blasters. Go look at a Deadpool game. He's got weapons.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't look like, a Glock, a 9mm. There's been a lot of questions about Bond. And it's like, Bond's got weapons. It's like, yes, Bond's got weapons. That licensor said to me, you cannot create like a Walter PPK, Bond's gun. You cannot create a toy. You cannot create new art that doesn't come from the film archives of James Bond showing him with a weapon. So it was like, if Kevin O'Connor had a little corner piece in the playfield and he needed to draw Bond with a gun, the answer was no, you can't do that. So every licensor deals with it however they want to deal with it. We have to comply. And in the case of Lionsgate, we fell into this all ages category. And by the way, it's like it's interesting, right? When the game ships with a default plastic for the weapons crate that doesn't have any guns in it, but there's one that has guns in it in the cash box.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to take it out,
so you can modify it yourself.
Right? Yeah, it's 4 screws. You put it in there, but so we have to walk the line to what the licensor wants us to do. I'll tell you that it did surprise us. It took us by surprise because we never assumed that the essence of the franchise is John Wick, this renowned assassin, legendary assassin, and he can turn anything into a weapon, a pencil, a car, you name it, right? And he is constantly, he shoots a guy 3 times, just to make sure he's tripled that. So when we started working on the project, we never imagined that, this is like a thing. And I think it was like there was a piece of Randy Martinez art that got submitted, and he had weapons in it, and that started the conversation. And it was like, oh no, you guys are all ages. You gotta fit into this category. So we did take a step back and said, what does this mean to the game, right? And the reality is that, this entire conversation has taken us by surprise because we've been playing the game for 14 months. Yeah. So we know what the game is, we know how the game feels, and we stopped thinking about it way back when, whenever it's, whatever it was, 2, 3 months into the project, whenever the problem came up, we just sort of like said, we analyzed it. We said, what does this mean to us? And by the way, there have been licenses that we have abandoned when we said we can't do that justice. We had most famously, Hunger Games. We
Oh,
looked at Hunger Games and we said, it's like if we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, we don't, we can't really do it. And so we had an honest conversation with the licensor, and we said, I don't think it's good for you, and I don't think it's good for us.
Right.
So I think at this point we're going to part ways and put this on the shelf and move on. So, but with Wick, we looked at him and said, well, we've got all this film footage. And once you get into the game, that's what's really. I'm not looking at the side of the cabinet.
Right.
yeah.
I'm not reaching over to I'm not noticing that. Oh, there isn't a pistol on the back glass. I mean, so it's like, it's not. Uh, the very first thing is everybody jumped to the conclusion there was some sort of political statement relative to guns from Stern Pinball. It's not. Um, you know, both Tim and I we were joking. I told Joel the same thing. I said, Tim and I were this totally took us such by surprise. We're both Eagle Scouts. We came up in Scouts,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't a summer camp in America that didn't have a 30-06 rifle range,
Yep.
right?
Same. Yeah.
Same here. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's
I'm an
like,
Eagle
kinda like,
Scout too. There was a marksmanship merit badge.
Same
yeah,
here.
and I think Tim's got it, and so it's kind of like one of those things where you go, and we're sitting there going, oh man, it's like I spent hours on the range. I learned how to shoot. I know my way around weapons. It's like, but it's like I never. It is clear. I want to assure you, it's like we don't. It's just not how we think.
Yeah.
We said the licensor said that we analyzed where we were with the game. We said, yeah, the game's pretty good. And it's like I don't know. It's like not gonna miss it.
Well, to summarize, it seems like you're saying that guns are in the game. I mean, that is
Yeah, they are in
essentially
the
to
game. I mean,
John Wick. And so
yeah,
okay, if I can summarize it and say, you said, well, guns are still in the game. This is still John Wick. He's an assassin. He is killing people. However, they're not going to be incorporated in the art package, but they're still going to be incorporated in the gameplay. Is that fair to say?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I mean, it's like sort of the problem is that the conversation went out of control pretty quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as much as, I mean, if you look at my post, I said it in my post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of gunplay, and we're not changing any of that.
Right.
It's just simply, it's like, yes, there are no illustrations of him on the back glass, and the plastic with the weapons crate guns is in the cash box, and
Mhm.
take out 4 screws and put it in.
So one thought I've had, because I know back in the 90s, I can't remember if it was Mortal Kombat or Area 51, but they used to put like 18 plus on the cabinet.
Yeah,
Have you guys ever considered doing that to get around this issue?
we just talked about that based on this issue, right? We just talked about how do we approach this so that and I have to tell you that we stopped thinking about the problem 20
Months,
minutes
yeah.
after
Yeah.
that was whatever it was 9 months ago or something. We stopped thinking about it, and we said, again, I was like, yeah. I mean, I remember rolling in the studio one day and somebody said, no guns in John Wick. And I said, what do you mean? And then they explained it to me, and I was like, okay, well, let's think about that. And
Right.
so we, and I sat with Tim and Elliot, and I said, what do you guys think about this? No, I think we're okay. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing. It's like there's so much, there's so much interesting fiction in the that's part of the franchise, right? The notion of the administration, the factions, the high table, the contracts, all that stuff's in the game. And so there's some really cool stuff like related to Insider Connected. You're going to get in-app notifications about new contracts, and that there's all of that stuff persisted. So we were like, yeah, I don't know, it's pretty cool, just the way it is. So it's kind of like I'm not. You really want me to pull the plug on this because I can't draw guns on the side of the cabinet or on the
Yeah.
back glass?
Mm-hmm.
So the other question too, because this has come up in the conversation, and it's made me curious because we know that you've had a relationship with Disney over the years because you're doing Marvel product and whatnot. But some of the narrative has been you guys are appeasing the Disney overlords because they somehow control what Stern decides to do. I doubt there's any truth to that, but can you give us maybe some insight to the relationship and if Disney is involved with you guys at all?
No, I mean, the relationship is licensor to licensee. So basically, when we do it, the way, so I believe strongly that the designers, the developers, the people, the artists, the people that are working on the franchise, it should be a thing they really want to work on. Just based on my own experience, right? It's like I don't
Yeah.
want to make games about things I'm not interested in. So now I have a studio with 50 people in it. I have another 30 people on the outside. I can't always match everyone with everything.
Yeah.
But whenever possible, I try to get people working on things they want to work on. So there are some people in the studio that wouldn't have raised their hands for John Wick. There are also some people in the studio that wouldn't have raised their hands for Jaws or whatever, right? So I try to match people, but the the licenses that we pick are they're company wide decisions based on what we think is going to be popular, what's going to appeal to an audience. A lot of times, most of the time, it's the broadest audience. Sometimes it's a niche audience. Wick is actually a niche audience for
Hmm.
us,
Yeah.
as opposed to Jaws, right? And so you can imagine that even with the sanitized artwork, there are some people that aren't going to bring Wick into their house, and there are other people that might not bring whatever Deadpool into their house. Maybe so I think, is there a relationship? There's a relationship from the standpoint that after you've done however many Marvel titles we've done, they actually like us and they say, hey, would you guys want to work on this or that? That's the extent of the relationship. Now, Marvel obviously has gained some trust in us, right?
Yeah.
So we get because we've done justice to a lot of Marvel properties.
Yeah.
And when you have a new licensor, a lot of times that's a challenge, right? Because they don't know you, they don't know who they don't know what you're about, they don't know if you can do this justice. Bond was like that, right? It's a sort of a you're only going to do it's not like you can. There are a lot of different Bond properties. You're going to do a Bond property, and you're doing Bond. So, um, so that was a learning process for them and a learning process for us, right? A lot of people, um, have uh, every time we tackle a new licensor, there's a learning curve for both parties. We have to learn what are their limits, where are the guardrails relative to these guys, and what are the touch points that they're going to be sensitive about. The gun thing, by the way, has how guns are portrayed has been universally sensitive with licensors, like I said, all the way back to Deadpool.
Yeah.
On Bond, it was sensitive. There were sensibilities, and the only leeway was the fact that hey, if you're using a Bond poster from 1962 from the Doctor No, cell sheet or something, it's okay if he's got a weapon, but don't go drawing one.
Okay, so what I want to know about as Stern, when you're looking at licenses, or I guess if you're looking at themes to do, what goes into making uh, a theme a good product for pinball? Because we know that there are tons of things that sell wildly worldwide, but may not actually mix with a pinball audience. So, what do you
Yeah.
consider when you're trying to generate these titles?
So not everything translates. I'll tell you that. So I'm the chief creative officer, so clearly my voice is a lot, uh, carries a lot of weight relative to the stuff we select, right? And what I'm bringing to it is the fact that I've actually experienced making a game, right? A lot of the other people in the room, they've experienced selling a game, they've experienced marketing a game, they've experienced the business aspects of a game, they've experienced manufacturing a game, but they haven't experienced making a game, so they don't know, or they have a different perspective on it. So the the conversation is always, first of all, does anybody, will anybody in the studio actually, we're presented with licenses from all kinds of people, call us with licenses, and now, because of who we are, the largest pinball machine company in the world, by far, and we have a blue chip portfolio of licensors, right? Unlike anybody else's.
Yeah.
We worked with everybody, and so people look at our products and they say, I want them to make our thing, right? So people are constantly calling us. Video game companies call us every day. It's just different people are just constantly lobbying us. So we take the list, and some combination of, we go to we send people to the licensing show, and they get pitched at the licensing show, and we bring all this information back, and we say, what does anybody care about? Like, what is, and I was telling Joel that one of the things that you have to remember is that me and my studio, while we may be slightly different members of the community, we are members of the community. We buy the games. I have a house full of games. I buy them with my own money. I trade them, collect them, play them, clean them, tweak them, modify them, do all the things you do. We do. So the product development studio buys more games from the company than any other area of the company. So what does that mean? It means that we want to make themes that we're interested in. We want to make, we raise our hands for things that would be cool to do. Why don't we do that? So we talk about stuff all the time. Now we have to temper that with the fact that we can only take a flyer that's a niche title, and take that chance only so often,
Hmm.
because we're also a business, and we're a big business, and so we have to sustain the business. And that means that, if you guess wrong on your niche title, it might hurt you. So you have to. So we like broad audience appeal. We like humor. We like, every my most successful games, maybe the exception of like Lord of the Rings, but almost everything else has had humor. That, the breakouts, right? The breakouts
Yeah.
in my portfolio, right, have had humor. Um, so I think, humor plays a role. Something that's culturally relevant plays a role. Something that has broad appeal plays a role.
Hmm.
We so I think that those are the things we think about. And like I said, that's not to say that we can't. What are the outliers? When we did Iron Maiden, we thought, we know Europe's gonna like it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got it
we're not
right
sure.
there.
Yeah, we said, but we knew Europe's gonna like it. We don't
Yeah.
know how America's gonna respond. And we were pleasantly surprised, but that was considered a risk, right?
Hmm.
When we did Wick, Wick's a risk. Why is Wick a risk? Well, Wick is a risk because of the controversy of violence, right?
Hmm.
The notion of violence. So it's a risk we took, but at the same time, we also said, I think, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that the art is sanitized. We just, we said, like I said, it's not a political decision from the company's perspective. It's just simply a matter of, hey, that's a cool action title. Let's do that every
Well,
once
it's
in a while.
it's a weird line to toe too. I know that like recently I was talking to a gentleman that loves Cactus Canyon, but he said he'd never own one because it's got the six shooters on the bottom of the apron. So it's kind of a weird line to toe when you are dealing with these niche titles, just because you don't know how your audience is going to react. So
Right. And by the way, uh, I think you can extend that back to the licensors. They don't know,
yeah,
right? So they're sort of like, what? how will that work? And so, yeah, this all ages thing is really sort of what. But yeah, we have, based on this entire episode, we've thought about, maybe we should put disclaimers on these things. In when I worked in the video game business, there's a thing called the ESRB,
Yeah.
which is essentially like when movies are rated PG or whatever, it's for video games. And I'll tell you that I worked on an NBA licensed basketball game, and my game had to have a E rating with no disclaimers. What are disclaimers? Well, there's an E rating. E is for everyone, and then I forget what they were. They were E for everyone. You know, M mature. I forget what they were. There was something in between, and the disclaimers were things like for everyone with mild violence, like mild. What's mild violence? Mild violence is Roadrunner cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? Um, and I couldn't have any disclaimers. That was the NBA told me that you must be E for everyone, no matter what.
Yeah.
So the ESRB would essentially rate the games. They would give you the rating, but they weren't a censor. So when I'll tell you a story. We had a commitment to have games on the shelves at Walmart and GameStop, all the big retailers. And in some of these big retailers, when you do a deal with them, if they promise you an end cap at Target or Walmart or something, and you don't deliver your game on time, or you don't have your product on that end cap, there are penalties, and some of those penalties get crazy. It could be $100,000 a day for being late to have your product on the shelf. And I'm working on this basketball video game, and my ratings are coming from the ESRB, and they're like E with mild violence, E with sexual content, all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? What is this? And time is running out. And so they won't tell you why they gave you that rating. They'll just tell you that's the rating because they said, we're not a censor.
Right.
And so I'm like playing this guessing game. I'm analyzing my game, and I'm just like, oh man, what is it? What is it? Maybe it's that. Take that out. And resubmitting. And every time you resubmit, I'd fill out all these forms.
Mm-hmm.
We'd send them a check. They'd put it in front of a mom, a group of moms or whatever, and then they rate them. My rating would come back. One day I get a call from the CEO of the company, and he said, "You are on the shelf in 3 weeks. If you don't have your E rating, you're not going to be on the shelf. It's $100,000 a day at this retailer. It's $50,000 a day at that retailer. Get your ass on a plane to New York today and come back with an E rating." So here I am in Manhattan at the offices of the ESRB going, please help me, tell me, whatever it is, whatever you want. And the guy says to me, goes, I can't tell you, but I can give you some clues. And I'm like, okay, tell me the clues. And he says to me, goes, your game is rated by some moms in Westchester. And if they think something's risque, maybe, and I'm like, and I realize you have to put this in the context of what it is, right?
Sure.
And at that particular moment in time, it was a PlayStation 2. It was video art on a PlayStation 2. And it was cheerleaders on the side of the court. And the cheerleaders, were like a little bit too risque, but risque in the notion that they were, pixel images of cheerleaders. So, imagine, it's not like an Xbox today, right? You can't, it's like an Xbox today, you could replicate a perfect image.
Right.
In those days, it was hardly that.
Yeah.
But, I'm just like, I'm pick up the phone, call the studio, talk to my art director and said, get every cheerleader in a turtleneck right now. And he's like, why? I'm
Sweatsuits.
Like,
Sweatsuits. Yeah.
So I got my E rating.
Well, okay. So I'll actually point out that for people who remember when Mortal Kombat came to the Genesis way
Yeah,
back in the day, they actually it came at a default rating of mild violence, and you actually had to enter in a code, which was hilarious because you physically had to call a number, and the first code they gave you was wrong, and you had to wait and listen, and they gave you the real code later.
yeah.
And so you actually had to enter in the code. So for all the for all the youngsters out there who don't realize how big of a deal this was like in the 90s. And
Yeah.
this was not that, this was maybe a long time ago for you, but not long time
So
ago for me.
maybe I mean it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. I wonder if I went to Lionsgate and they said, hey, if I put a sticker on it says for 18 use only, because I don't know that would I get it across the finish line because of the fact that
You're still
their
putting them
issue,
in arcades, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, their issue is that you don't know where it's going, and it may end, it will end up in commercial locations, and maybe that's not enough, and so
Mhm.
I'm still at the mercy of that that judgment.
So is that
Okay,
why you guys still kind of do family friendly modes as well on
sure.
Yeah,
most of the
well,
games?
family friendly modes are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
They're meaning that if Sopranos, right? I had a family friendly mode, and it's like, but Lyman and I were sitting around one day, thinking, hey, wouldn't it be funny if? And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and so like we came back,
The
and
Sopranos
Gary's like,
family game. Yeah.
at the time, I was like, Gary's like, I love it, but you got to, that means you got to put on an adjustment. Okay, yeah, we do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Now we've talked about the controversies around surrounding John Wick. Now I actually want to know about the game. Like, why is this a? Because you guys have done some things, kind of like Venom, where you're trying some different things that you haven't done before. In this game, you actually have like some adaptive coding, and
Yeah,
so I want you to talk. Lead me through the game. Lead me through why this
yeah.
would be a good game for
So
me to buy.
it's really that particular element that you're referring to is it's essentially and it's referenced as an AI. It's very much out of video games, and it's like a combat system in a video game where the game watches you do certain things, and it reacts to essentially what it what it what it's feeding you something based on what you've done, in a maybe in a more sophisticated way than the obvious. And so it's really just, I mean, when we do that stuff, we're just trying to innovate. We're trying to create something. And the biggest impact it has on this game is that it may make it may not make it feel the same. So it makes the game feel fresh every time you play it, and the enemies that it's serving you up, and the challenges that it's presenting you. And so you may or may, and hopefully you'll notice it. You'll notice that, hey, every time I step up to this game, I'm getting, it feels different. And that was the intent for that. There's some other cool things in there, like there's a choreography system where you kill three guys, you watch John Wick kill three guys, so it's very linked. And he's done a masterful job with that, by the way. I can't describe it in words. You have to kind of experience it, but it really feels very connected. It almost feels like even though it is all film footage from the films, it feels like incredibly choreographed to the action in the game. And so we try to innovate. It's like that's a thing that it's kind of like the level up system in Venom, right? And it's like you're going to see that again. We create something, and you're going to see in this game, you're going to see in-app IC notifications for contracts, and we'll use that now. Now it's a piece. Now we have a piece of technology, and now we know how to create content for that technology, and so we're going to do different things with it.
So one thing I wanted to point out too, this is a new designer. I know he's been at Stern for a decade now,
Yeah,
but Elliot Eisman was the lead designer on this, and it's
yeah,
awesome that you guys are going with new teams and kind of new blood. My question is though, because looking at John Wick and Foo Fighters, because that was Jack Danger's first cornerstone, um, there's a lot of elements that from what you like to put in your games, and I see elements from John Borg. So do these guys pretty much get free reign to do whatever they design, or do you have almost like a Gomez's
Apprentice shop.
institute of
Yeah.
playfield design that you run them
Yeah,
through?
clearly, look, I mean, I part of my part of my job is to is sort of guarantee the quality of the product coming out of the studio, and to mentor and teach. And so I've worked a lot with Elliot, and I've worked a lot with Jack. So it's sort of like I don't want them to be me. I don't, I think that, but the reality is that a designer doesn't have a style until he's done a bunch of work. He won't find his style. He won't, even if he tries, right? Style is a thing that comes to you from exercising your profession, right? From doing the work you do.
Yeah.
And eventually it's like, you begin to think a certain way, and the thinking translates into the thing you're building, and all of a sudden you have a style. So, um, Jack's next game will have elements that may seem familiar, but it'll have a bunch of new things. And Elliot's game is, maybe influenced. The first influences of a designer are typically the games he liked. If you talk to Elwin, he'll tell you that, he loved games like Funhouse, that he loved the Lawler games. And so, now, is there a connection between Elwin's games and Lawler's games? Maybe, but it's evolved, right? It's
Yeah.
like now it's his own thing. Now it's Elwin's thing, right? And Pat's thing is over here. And so I think that um, there's different, Jack's open cross shot thing. Well, stare at a Deadpool, right? That
Hmm.
that that cross shot, he loves that game, and so he played that game a lot. So he said, "What else can I do with this?" So he put his own twist on it, right? And when I first started, you look at Johnny Mnemonic, and I was playing a lot of Terminator 2, and I said to myself, "This feels fast. These shots connect. There's some element of flow," and so I started thinking along those lines. And so, but Johnny Mnemonic's the second game I ever made. I didn't have a style. I was trying to figure it out. Now I eventually, dialed into things. I try to reinvent myself. I don't like to repeat myself, even though I do have certain things that are stylistically, mine. I try not to make the same thing over and over again. You guys would be bored with that.
Yeah. I think, and that's what I like about seeing these designs is you guys do take familiarity that we are accustomed to, but then you put your own twist and maybe add a couple new elements that we haven't seen before. So we still get the feel goods of the nostalgia with the dopamine hit of new mechs or new little twist. So
Yeah. I mean, I worked, I did, those guys were jammed up with a lot of things. I sculpted the little car in Wick, and it couldn't be a Mustang, it couldn't be a Barracuda, it couldn't be a Chevelle, because which one am I going to make? And on top of that, I would have had to license whatever it was. And so I
Hmm.
said, no, I'm going to make a generic muscle car. I'm a car guy. I think I can style something. And I said, Elliot, I got this. I'll do the body of the car. You work on the mech. So I think we collaborated on stuff like that. We collaborated on the Illuminated City, the Edgelit City, stuff like that. We worked together on things like that. I shot his game. I'd say, I think you should move this. I think you should, do this over here. But I do that with everybody. It's like even the guys with experience. When sometimes Owen says, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Or I don't know what to do with this. What should that be?
yeah, he
So
attributed the ramps on Godzilla to you. They were coming back too fast, and you said if you just kind of make them swirl a little bit, slow down that ball, and I love the visual of the ball path on that. It's amazing.
yeah.
So
So I mean, you want. I think that there's things I preach, right? Like I preach ramps are a toy. So try to make them interesting. Try not to just come straight down the side and bring the ball back to the flipper. So, there's a bunch of different things. I mean, these guys make fun of me. I'm sure they hear me say, give me five good things, not 18 mediocre ones. And, I behind my back, I'm sure they've got a whole list.
Okay, so on John Wick, there are 4 movies, and there's going to be another one coming out. It seems like. What is the pathway? If I walk up to the game, do they cross over between all the different? Because you've done this before with Lord of the Rings, you had all 3 movies, but you could kind of
Yeah.
pick a little bit of a path. So with John Wick, do you try to pick? Okay, I'm going to focus on movie 4. I'm going to focus on movie
No,
3, or
no,
is
because
it
you're in the world of John Wick, but you're not playing the film per
okay?
se.
So a little bit like Jurassic Park, where you're in the Jurassic Park world, but you're not
Yeah,
actually going
yeah.
through the films.
There's contracts and factions and enemies and different assassins and what you choose to do will drive you through. But it's not a logical path through. There are some what would you call it theme setting moments, but that to the franchise kind of thing, but there's way it has games have to be designed. Games will never be played the way a designer designs them.
Hmm.
Games will be and therefore they have to be played. They have to be fun regardless of how you play them, right? It's like when I meet new designers, they think that a game is going to be somehow played in this progression in their head, and that's just not the case. And licensors are, by the way, that's one of the biggest education points with licensors is, when we worked on Star Wars, they were like, well, no, you can't go to Hoth. You haven't been to Tatooine. And we're like, no, 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 you don't understand.
Hmm.
I, he can do anything he wants anytime.
Yeah.
Right. It
So,
would become quite boring
yeah,
if you were plowing the same path on every game. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it brings up two questions that we've had. On the Pro for John Wick, you did talk about that card. Does it move at all, or is it just stationary, kind of right
It,
there?
it, it, it reacts to hits, but it
Okay.
doesn't. It doesn't swing out.
Okay. And
Um,
the other question I have too is in the red circle room. So obviously on the premium, the balls drop from top because it's a physical ball lock, but on the Pro there isn't that. So do you just hit the balls in there? Do they trap up behind the drop target? How does that work?
Now I'm trying to visualize what he does with them. I think he gives you a virtual lock. I think that's what he's doing. I can't remember now. I've played the other one more than I have the Pro.
Okay. We were just curious on that, and I did see a picture where the ball was there was a drop target in front of that, and there was a ball behind
Yeah, well,
it.
he
So
does. I think he holds the ball there. He can hold the ball there. He's got a switch back there.
okay,
So definitely behind the drop target, he's got a switch there.
cool.
So how did now Elliot? Did he do other like small projects to audition for you? Like, how did this come about? Because
Yeah, so it
you
came
you do
about.
3 cornerstones a year. It's not like you're
Yeah,
handing those tokens out very readily.
right, right, right. He got lucky in that there were some assignments in the schedule that left that opening, and so that helped. He's a mechanical engineer by trade. He's a degreed mechanical engineer, and he has worked on a lot of games at this point. And he raised his hand and said, I want to try this. And the good news about a guy like him is that I don't have to teach him how anything's made, and like I don't have to teach him like some fundamental things that, like, for example, Jack had to learn. And so because Elliot has been in it and executing on a designer's vision for a long time, and he's worked with numerous designers. So I think that because of that, I there was he had a big, he had a huge advantage on somebody else. Here's a guy, I don't have to teach him how to mock something up. I don't have to teach him how to try something. I don't have to teach him anything about the technology. I don't have to teach him anything about like, why the ball guide rests on the post and not behind it. All that kind of stuff, right? So he knows all that. And so, now I'll tell you that, you know, I balled up his first two whitewoods and threw them away. So and so, his game was under some pressure because, his first two were, not so good. So I think but that's part of the process, right? It's like,
Hmm.
the only people that haven't failed at something are people that haven't done anything. So I think, he failed quickly, and then I said, look, you know, we're running out of time. This next one's got to count. You have to pay very close attention to the things I say, and we got to get there. And so, we worked to get to a place very fast, and then, we started. Once you have the structure of something, refinement is easy. You can refine it if you're at a place. But if you're in a horrible place, I'm just throwing it out. I
Yeah.
don't need to see. It's like, what's your special toy? It's a mini playfield. I'm like, no, no, it's not.
Hmm.
So is it safe to say that this isn't going to be Elliot's last game designing? Is he going to be a designer from here on out, or is this kind of like a one-off?
Well, so it's look. I have an overabundance of designers.
Hmm.
So it may be a little while before you see another Elliott game, and he might have to focus on some other. There's no shortage of work around here.
Yeah.
So he may have to focus on something else. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't I haven't moved all the chess pieces around yet for the next batch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in flight, right? Jack's in flight, Keith's in flight, Borgie's in flight. So those are projects that are moving, and so now it's a question of, where does Elliot plug in, and how does he work? It's like, if you don't see anything from him for a while, it'll be because, like, I said, I have a wealth of designers right now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Really talented, amazing designers. It's amazing to see Elliot designing when I mean, granted, Jack is beginning. His first design was amazing with Foo Fighters. I mean,
Hey,
you got
I thought the
Elwin.
Jurassic Park home pin was actually pretty
Yeah,
fun.
it was
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
But you've got Eddie,
yeah. You
Elwin,
haven't.
and
By the way,
Borg.
you haven't seen the end of the Jurassic Park home pin.
Oh yeah, no,
Nice.
no, it's a fun game. Actually, I have considered it, but I have the other Jurassic Park over here. So
Well, that's interesting because didn't
yeah,
you guys announce last year that you were discontinuing the home pins and whatnot?
Yeah, I don't. When there's
maybe
the
for a season.
when it's the Black Knight conversation. I think,
Yeah,
like our interview is running together in my head with Joel's interview. So if you guys didn't ask me about Black Knight, did you guys ask me about Black Knight?
No,
we
not
we
not.
didn't,
I'll
but
ask about Black Knight. Joel said to me, he goes, so what's this about this Black Knight? So the funniest part to me is, like, these conspiracy theories
sure.
Yeah,
online about, like, they must be, like, things must be on fire. They're pulling out Black Knight. I think, no, somebody, like, we build games on demand,
Yeah.
meaning that if there's enough demand and somebody comes in and says, hey, we could probably sell another X of those. We'll, all right, when can you fit them in the schedule? Do we
Hmm.
still have a license for that? Yeah, let's fit them in the schedule.
Hey,
So I
I
think,
I just heard on the phone that there are 2,000 to 3,000 people wanting a vault of Lord of the Rings.
that's the toughest vault. It's like not only is it so. Joel asked me the same thing, so it's kind of like, the yeah, Tron. And you want me to tell you what they are?
Yeah.
it's
yeah,
No, no,
it's
no, we don't.
Lord of the
Tron, Lord of
Rings,
the Rings. Yeah.
Tron,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Hmm.
Simpsons Pinball Party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we if we have the part, or if we can get the parts, if the license is in place, or it's not a complete pain in the butt to extend the license, if we have a slot in the schedule. There's a lot of things that play into it, right? But when dealers and distributors call and they say, hey, I see Black Knights going for crazy money. I think I could move. I think I could sell some Black Knights. Then you go, okay, all right. What do you think? And well, give me a number, okay. And then two weeks later, another guy calls you up and says, "Hey, I see a demand for Black Knights." It's like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
now all of a sudden you start putting this together. That the sales guys show up and they go, "Hey, can we make any more Black Knights?" So that's really how it is. A lot of times, a game is sort of underserves the market.
Sure.
I think Black Knight was like that. There was a lot
Hmm.
of
Stranger
love.
Things was that way. Yeah.
Yep, lot of love for the pro, not so much for the premium. And
Hmm.
so it was like, okay, we'll make what people want. Hey, we're blessed. The back catalog. I mean, we're gonna make Deadpool's again, and
Hmm.
we made them. And this game we launched in 2017. We have lots of games like that, which is where if there's demand, we'll make it. We'll got to figure out where to fit it in relative to the cornerstones and all that. But
Yeah.
So I
So,
do have a follow up
oh,
on all those because the one thing that you have dipped your toe into the market on, which is great because obviously I buy them, but like toppers and accessories. So this is the fan side of me that I do not work in pinball. I don't work in manufacturing. I do have a mechanical engineering degree though. So if you're looking for an extra person, I'll quit my job and move out. Um, the I've always wondered why isn't there like a designated division that's all they do? Like they build
yeah,
toppers, or they even go back in time and build toppers for other things, but have them simultaneously launched with the game because I guarantee that is when if people are like, "Ooh, I'm going to get the elite. Oh, I'm also going to get the topper. I want the shooter rod. I want the expression lighting kit. I want the the shaker
yeah.
motor. I want the hovercraft. I want I have
correct.
$25,000 burning a hole in my pocket, and I definitely want everything at
No,
once.
we look. We're not ignorant to that. We
Yeah,
absolutely understand that, and it is a thing that I just told Joel. I said it's a thing that they told me I have to do. That's a thing that I have to deliver that stuff when we offer the game,
sure.
and I completely understand that. Now, remember that toppers sometimes go. They have to not sometimes, all the time. They have to go through the same process as a game. So in the
So
case
like
of Star
the
Wars
Star Wars
topper,
one, the Star Wars one that came out like 3 years
yeah,
later.
like
Yeah,
a year later, right?
yeah,
So that was a sort of difficult in approvals, and that blue on R2D2, kept so you have the licensing component, you have a manufacturing component, and you of course you have the game team is focused on deliver the game,
sure.
and the last thing that they want to do is mess with the topper at this point. So we are totally aware of it. It's a thing I gotta fix. It's a thing we
Hmm.
don't do well, and I gotta uh, the more there is so much demand for that stuff. So now I'll tell you that you're gonna see the wick topper sooner than you think. It's gonna be really cool. Um, I'll I'll give you a clue. Um,
Go
time is
on.
involved.
Time is involved. Okay.
Time.
Time is involved.
Okay.
Hmm.
But but yeah, no, I mean, I think I hear you, and yeah, it's a thing we got to fix. We do look, we do lots of things right. We do lots of things wrong, and we gotta get better at this launch coordination thing. We got to get better at the accessories at launch. We got to do. I mean, we just we're not. We're far from perfect. We're far from perfect.
I want to rewind just part of the conversation because we were talking about remakes there for a second. And back in October 2021 at Expo, you announced Spike 3 is coming, that you're working on it and it's coming. And we're kind of getting to that. We're starting to hear rumors and rumblings of Spike 3 and a possible remake from a DMD era game. I guess my first question is, how close are we to seeing Spike 3? And the second question is, are we going to start seeing remakes, and does the Spike 3, I guess, have any feature? I guess one of the biggest things I've heard online is the screen going to be bigger? Like, are we pretty much just going to get the same old LCD? I guess that's three or
So
four
you're
questions.
getting so the so I can't talk too much about Spike 3 because I don't. I don't want to steal the thunder or the launch and all
Sure.
that, but
Okay. Yeah.
you're going to get uh, better everything, more of everything. It's an opportunity to look at all the things you didn't do right and do them right. So it's an opportunity. What are you going to get? You're going to get more horsepower, more processing power, more ability to cooler everything. That's really extensions into areas that like you're complaining about now, and you're saying I don't like that, and so it's an opportunity to fix it. Are you going to see it soon? You are going to see it. You may see it before the year's out, and there's and you'll see it when you see it. Elements, a lot of it is going to be very familiar to you, and meaning I would guess that the node bus is going to remain, and the node bus architecture, and that maybe it's there's lots of things that you're going to look at and go, oh yeah, it's definitely a spike. It's a spike. It's an evolved spike with more horsepower.
Cool.
Now, are
Yeah, and
you?
then what was the
Oh,
what was
go
the
ahead.
second half of your question was about vaults or?
Kind of. Are we going to see remakes coming with the new Spike threes?
You'll see remakes, but the remakes aren't going to be driven by can we make them on Spike 3. They're going to be more driven by what's the demand, and what can we do with it. And um so if we see an opportunity, and I don't, it's no secret I've talked about some of the stuff you guys want, right? Like everybody wants a Tron.
Hmm.
It there's challenges. We don't have a Tron license. We have to go get a Tron license. There's challenges. What do you do with the display? And at some point, you have to be sure that the amount of development work that you're going to put into it stands a chance of being profitable. Because if you say to yourself, if I build it on Spike 3, unless I emulate the dots and just use the display as a dot emulator, like that, like
The CGC, like Monster Bash. I mean,
right,
that's what I have.
right,
I have
that's
Monster
right.
Bash.
So if you do that, it's a little different. It's maybe less work. But then you say to yourself, I don't know if I got this cool new display. Do I really just want to do that old stuff? So
Yeah.
Hmm.
then the conversation quickly evolves, right? And
Yeah.
so it's more you're going to see some cool stuff, but it's not like I don't think we're going to have a cadence of like every old game is going to be remade or anything like that.
Yeah. I guess get more of like a 2.0 version, because like we've talked about Tron a couple times, so it's
Right.
like you got a lot of room there. You got film assets. You've got who
Yeah,
wouldn't love seeing Jeff Bridges on that display
right,
screen while
right. So you
you're
say okay, so what would it take to do that, right?
yeah,
And then if you say at the back end, if you talk to the sales guys and go, could you sell this many of them? And then they work the math back and they
Hmm.
go, okay, yeah, you can pay for development, you can pay for parts, you can pay for manufacturing, the overhead, all that stuff, right?
yeah,
So I want to get into you guys have moved to a bigger facility with bigger manufacturing capabilities, which is great. And it's also a blessing and a curse because in many ways, you still have more operating costs when you're actually going to a bigger area. And what what justifies that and what makes that a successful move? Because you have to sell more units to justify the bigger real estate.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a little bit of, it's not quite as simple as that, meaning that um, if the business was hamstrung because you couldn't manufacture enough games in the old facility and in the new facility you can, then you know that overhead isn't, I mean, there's an overhead, but it's not it's not it's like, it's not, you're not going backwards. That the math economy that I've seen online is not, like I see guys speculating about, the new facility is a burden, et cetera. You don't understand. The new facility is a facilitator. It's hardly a burden. We've got like, we have two buildings. We have one that's got four CNC machines, crank and play fields. This building, everything is, we have more space, everything's nice and clean. My shops, the Whitewood lab, all that stuff is better. We have opportunity. I just bought a bunch of new 3D printers, and we have we're growing, and
Yeah.
we have to that it's a it's kind of like, if you want to reach the next level, you have to make some investments. The cost of things isn't necessarily always passed on to you. The company reinvests in the company.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, nobody understands this. The growth, when you have a self-funded company, the success of the company funds the next growth step of the company. So it's sort of like, it's just like your personal economy. If you got a raise because you did really good work, or you did more work last year than than you did the year before, and your revenue, your personal revenue went up, you can make choices. You can say, hey, I needed this other thing in order to do more of what I was trying to do, and so I probably need to buy some of those, whatever that is. So that's really our scenarios like that. That's not to say, look, there's when everybody talks about the price of the games, and we don't like that the price of the games is what it is either. We in the price of a game, everybody talks about the bills of material. It's not just about the bills of material. There's millions of dollars spent on development. There's millions of dollars spent on manufacturing a labor force that can build the games. That all that stuff has to be amortized. So you have right now, you're getting all of IC server costs, and everything is free to you. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and so you have there's a lot of things like the investments in future growth, investments in efficiency. There's so all these things impact the price of a game, and there's things that we do not control, lots of them. So the majority of the material in the pinball machine is not generated from scratch by in other words, I don't make steel and I don't form steel. We do, so the extended enterprise of companies that support us, they have, if the cost of, you know, their raw material goes up, it gets passed on to me.
Hmm.
And our costs, by the way, also in the cost of our pinball machines, is the fact that we have to essentially sell through a dealer distributor network, the largest distributor network in the business. But those guys have to make it. They have to make, their life has to be profitable, right? So they take the product we sell. They need a markup. They need to sustain their businesses and their families and all that stuff. And they mark it up, and ends up being the price you have. So we control some pricing, right? We decide to some extent. There's a guy in the thread, in the John Wick weapons thread. He says, why doesn't Gomez address the elephant in the room? It's $13,000 LE price. And in the process, of course, he had to insult me and say that we were greedy, and so it's like, I don't, I wish I could take that. I wish I could really, show that guy what goes into the games and how
Hmm.
much we keep, because he doesn't know. He's just making some assumption that you know, we're all getting wealthy on this, on this greed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, I'll tell you what I hear. I hear that pricing is an issue. We know this, and we have had, there's across the world, there's essentially a post-COVID, you know reality, a readjustment to normal life. And so, and during COVID, you weren't spending all this money on all this other stuff, so you decided you could, afford a pinball machine, and you got a pinball machine. We want we want pinball machines. When you see us talking to non-industry press, what's that about? Well, that's about getting the pinball word out to people that wouldn't normally get the pinball word, because the industry, the community within the press within the community is going to cover the game no matter what, and they're going to address the community we have. We want to grow the company. I don't want to hear ever that, do they still make those things, right? I want that
Yeah.
to go away. I
Hmm.
want people to, I want growth. I want people to say, and, yeah, you can say, well, it's not going to grow if it's $13,000. Well, I, the game is priced based on what we have to do to make, we're a business. We have to be profitable. And the dealers and distributors have a right to their profits, and they do a work, an element of work and dealing with the customer directly, delivering the games, making promoting the games, all that kind of stuff. So but the reality is that there's a bunch of people out there that are potential customers that are not aware. And
Hmm.
that's when you see us at CES, when you see us at Comic Con, and you guys, and I hear the community go like, "What are they doing there? It's got nothing to do with us." Well, it may not have anything to do with you, but we want more of you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We want everyone. We want everyone to embrace pinball so that we never hear that again. It guarantees the sustainability of the product,
Yeah.
and our livelihoods and our future.
Okay,
So
I will push back on two things, and you can choose or not to address them. With gas prices, it goes up and down depending on the season. So summertime gas prices go up. So with COVID, we had significant cost issues, and things escalated in price very quickly. However, the you could argue that's fine, but it was like a new set point. Things typically didn't go down after the things became more available. And you could even argue, and I've made the argument before, that, and this is again me talking as a pure fan.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
manufacture, I don't sell anything.
yeah.
Um, so the Black Knight Topper, I bought it when it first came out, and it
Hmm.
was under $500,
Hmm.
and now it's significantly more. And you could argue, like, I bought the Topper for Rush too, so there are things that are, there are toppers that you could argue are more expensive and less expensive,
Yeah,
but
some of those, and not that's not to say that there isn't some on-demand pricing, right? If
right.
you have a shortage of something, then and you can get more money for it, then sometimes people do.
Yeah.
But I don't know that, like like the thing about buys, right? Like when you
Sure.
buy 250 parts, it's significantly different than when you buy 1,000 parts,
Sure.
right? So depends on where and when you plug into the cycle, right?
Hmm.
So if those guys come back and they say we can only sell 250 of these, we got to have a really hard discussion about, is it worth it to build 250 of these? Because the price that you pay for those 250 parts that you order is
Hmm.
going to be a heck of a lot different than when you ordered 5,000 of them, you know?
Sure.
And so I think that the other thing about things like the Black Knight Topper is that you've got a bunch of those parts are tooled in China. And when there are political issues between our countries, those prices get affected. And that's a fact. So you can go back there and you can say, well, what about this? And sorry, that's what it
Hmm.
costs now.
Okay, and I will point out, though, the one thing I have really appreciated that Stern has done, even with, I would say, more than uh, okay, I'll put it this way. The accessories can be expensive. However, you can get a functional, fun pinball machine for what I would consider a very reasonable price, because the gameplay, it does sell, and that is what interacts you with a game. It's kind of like a car. You can buy a car that's an entry level that will still
Yeah.
do most of what you need, and if you want the extra stuff on top, yeah, you're going to pay more for it, and if that's important to you. But I've appreciated that Stern has been able to focus on getting a reliable machine that's fun, that still has a reasonable entry level price.
Yeah, we have. You touched on a couple of things there. One of the things that I tell people in this entire crazy conversation about the guns thing on Wick, some people approach it from the standpoint that it like no one's holding a gun to your head, no pun intended, to buy the product. And I always tell people, buy what you like, don't buy what you don't like. I mean, it's one of those things where, and accessories are something that they're not a must-have. The game is really solid without it. It's a way to trick out your game. I also believe that accessories, there should never be a situation where like toppers are priced at X because toppers are priced at X. It's like, this topper is complex, it's got a lot of stuff in it, the price of that topper should be a lot more than the price of a simple top. And there's going to be both. There's going to be simple toppers, there's going to be complex toppers. There's going to be, and just like games, right? You look at a Deadpool playfield, what's on a Deadpool playfield? Not a lot, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody will argue that point. So it's kind of like, I don't think putting more stuff in a game is necessarily any guarantee that it's better. God knows I've seen, some of the competitors' games with like,
A lot of
just
stuff.
a lot of stuff, and
Folds down
I
into a
can't
tank.
I can't tell you that I can't tell you that that there's like some equivalent amount of play value
Right.
associated with this
Yeah.
stuff, right? And it's like, and anybody who's, I think, look, I think if you're serious and you truly do the analysis, I think that the what you have to we deliver product consistently, we deliver reliable product. I think we deliver fun product. Our games, and this is not braggadocio, our games are the highest earning games in the world, on location, in terms of pinball machines. Our games consistently out earn. Our games are, if you talk to operators, they'll tell you they're the most reliable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you that, in the not too far distant future, the largest footprint of operated pinball machines in the world is going to be Stern pinballs. And so I think that, I I look. You have things like Insider Connect that
Mm-hmm.
it's transformed the way people interact with pinball machines,
Yeah.
and it's going to continue to. Right? I mean, we're just about to introduce in-app notifications with Wick. You're going to be getting contract notifications on the phone. You can turn them off, by the way. They're not going to hassle you, but it's going to add an element of play that you haven't had, and there's some really cool twists tied to it, and so, there's a lot of stuff like that where you say, where else can you get this? Because you can't get it anywhere else. You
Yeah.
can't get the depth, the breadth. You can't get the just the constant barrage of stuff we do. With the data that we're getting back from IC, I now look. I'll tell you that, one of the highest earning pinball machines on location today is. Take a guess.
Star Wars.
Venom.
Venom. Yeah.
Really?
Actually, I actually understand that. There's a Venom here locally, and I've gone and played it, and it is interesting. I would love to see the premium on location because I've only played the pro on location. But absolutely, it's
Yeah,
bringing a different audience to the games and to the arcades that would not go otherwise.
yeah.
So I would say it actually is really better for location. Venom would be than
Yeah,
maybe even
and
home
and
environment.
and I'll tell you another Venom stat. In the home, it gets played more than other games in those homes,
Hmm.
and so for whatever reason, now, is it in as many homes as a Godzilla? Absolutely not. Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's I think that's Godzilla's a fantastic game, but beyond that, it's also a theme that appeals broadly, right?
Yeah.
So you have these thematic niche, is a problem, and and so every once in a while you take a flyer and you say, I think now I know for a fact that Venom's going to play a bigger role in the MCU, and so you say, well, maybe down the road more people will be aware.
Yeah.
Hey, just a theme option. There's also another Deadpool coming out, and a Deadpool Wolverine would be a great theme.
You know, and you never know.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with that.
I've actually got two questions that we've been talking about this, and it clicked to me. One of them was, you're talking about you're privately funded and whatnot. One of the rumors in the last 2 months or 3 months is Stern's looking to go public. Can you comment on that or anything to
I
that
can
nature?
no, I mean I'll tell you that some of the speculation is really fun to watch. um, yeah, I don't think we're going public anytime soon.
Okay.
I think that um, the company is growing, right? And
Yeah.
so
Sure.
when you grow, um, people become interested in you,
Okay.
right? And so you say, but at the same time, I think that that's really natural. It's just a really natural thing. It's like you say, wow, those guys are doing really well. I wonder what but it's a
Yeah.
privately held company. So it's like, the ownership has to decide that that's the thing they want to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other question I had too is, as I noticed through the marketing push that you guys have done for John Wick, um, you guys said that there's a studio in Los Angeles and one in New York. Is that something that you guys own, or is that just something that was pushed for the marketing?
Um, I don't know that we said studio. We said we did a tour, a press tour. We did a press tour in the East Coast, one in the West Coast, and one in the Midwest.
Okay.
And that was that we invited non-industry press to try to get eyeballs, non-industry eyeballs, right, or
Yeah.
non-community eyeballs. That's what that was. We don't have anything. We don't have a presence on the West Coast. It's actually looking back in the day when I was earlier in our conversation. I was referencing my time at Midway Games when I worked on Xbox and PlayStation stuff, and back in the and that's very common in that business, that you're going to launch a game and you do a press tour. But it was really, that press tour was about, we know you guys are going to cover it. We know
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
know the community is going to get hardcore industry coverage on the stuff, and that, even that said, I think we're looking to invite a bunch of people. We invite you guys to come and see us,
Oh, we
and
got the invite.
did
Yeah.
you? Good.
We
Yeah.
did.
We'll
We
yeah, we'll
did.
be there.
Yeah, it's going to be an opportunity for us to show you around, and give you a little bit of glimpse behind the curtain, and just show you, and honestly, I want I don't ever want somebody to imagine that we don't hear and that we don't listen, because we do. And I also think that I you know you don't have to like everything we do. You're entitled to your opinion. You can say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
This one's not for me. It's okay. It's like, it's for somebody. Um, you know it's I this the I'm glad you guys have given me this opportunity, because it's very difficult to have these conversations, 3 sentences at a time,
Yeah.
texting on a Facebook post. And, so I think that uh, I hope people listen, and I hope they listen. They really listen to what I've said.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the frenzy of, what about this? I saw
Mhm.
there was a gun in James Bond. It's like, yeah, there was. and this is why.
Okay,
Well,
George,
we
we're
oh,
oh, go ahead, Josh.
oh, I was just gonna say probably what you were gonna say.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of our time here. The one question I have is, what is something that you would like to bring up that we weren't smart enough to think about?
Um, I think that um, I can tell you that we do this work from our hearts. We don't we don't I don't like it when people imagine us as the evil empire, even though that's really common for the biggest company in a given business. We're the 900-pound gorilla. You just have to understand that the people that make up the 900-pound gorilla are not a hell of a lot different than you are.
Yeah.
They have a different skill set. They have a very specialized skill set. They know how to make pinball machines. But we are in the community. We suffer those prices just like you do, and we are aware of it, and we are trying to figure out a way to not raise prices and to if we could drop prices, we probably would. Um, uh, so I think, yeah, I mean, it's uh, I don't know what else to tell you. I think
You,
I think I think that I hope people understand. I am being absolutely honest when I tell you the things I've told you. It was not, you know, taking guns off or off the art on John Wick was not any kind of political statement. It was the fact that we are an all ages product when we're on. We're considered an all ages product when we're on location. Can't guarantee to the licensor that we're not going to be on location, and therefore the constraints that come with that are, you know, can't have guns on the static art. Once you press the button and you're in the game, you've made a conscious decision to play the game, and that's a different story. And
well, George, we really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I don't know. I wish we had Wayne's World. We're not worthy.
Yeah.
Like you're such a legend in this industry, and we appreciate everything that you do for us. And honestly, I think speaking directly to the community right now, I think we take for granted how plugged in a CCO of a company is to this community. It's amazing that there's all these different industries, but it seems like you guys actually listen to the community. And like you said before, like there's some things you guys do amazingly well, and there's stuff that you fall short on, and you
yeah,
guys acknowledge that. And that's I think that's the most you can ask for from a company. And I think another thing people need to realize too is if you're driving a small boat, it's easy to pivot, right? But you guys are like a cruise liner, and so every time you have to pivot, it takes a few extra
It's a bigger
steps and a little
pivot.
extra
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's a bigger pivot. So, but we appreciate you coming on and clarifying a lot of this stuff, because it's a lot of questions even us as pinball media, as we like to put it, had, and I think you've answered all of them, and I appreciate you doing that.
well,
We
look, I'm not that unavailable, so it's like, feel free to hit me from time to time, whatever. And if I can clarify something, I'm happy to. I'd much rather I'd much rather tell you the truth on something than have it spin into like the conspiracy theories that I read online, right? And
yeah,
so it's kind of like, there's a bunch of people out there speculating why I kept Elliot out of the limelight and all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, Elliot and Tim are going to be on tour. They're going to do all the interviews. They're going to do all the stuff. His name, he signed all the LEs. It's like not some, it's not a military secret. He
yeah,
happened to be on vacation when we did the video shoot, and we didn't think it was a big deal,
no,
So it's like, yeah, you're gonna get plenty of Elliot FaceTime, and he's done a nice job, and we everybody's got to cut him some slack. He's new, but other
yep.
than that, I mean, the game's amazing considering.
Well,
I
we'd
I
love to have
can't wait.
Elliot and Tim on and
Yep.
pick their brains on the physical design and the code design, because it would be a really interesting discussion.
Well,
Yeah, for sure.
echo your words. Get in front of a game. Get ready to
Go play. Go play.
These games are online right now, and
Yeah,
I
those
can't
guys
wait to
are
get my
on. I'm
hands on
going to
them.
join them.
Yeah. If someone wants to get a hold of you, do you want them getting a hold of you, George? Is there a place they can get a hold of you at?
I mean, I think a lot of people, Facebook, I'm on Facebook. When you friend me, I usually accept. A lot of people PM me on stuff, and I monitor and I spend time in pinball and Stern Pinball Enthusiasts. Some of the forums for my games, I look at those a lot. I look at forums for new games. I just got I jumped into the Wick forum, and so I think that's probably a good place to reach me. I listen to opinions. I may not always engage. I may not always answer, but I listen to opinions. I watch,
Okay.
and certainly you guys can have a direct line to me, and you can certainly feed it back through your show. So
Definitely.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
we're going to be there soon, and we're going to bring some hats. We have new hats coming out, so we'll hash those out to people.
I'll have to get on that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going to be out there in 2 weeks.
You guys are shooting me in my office. I was just thinking about like the the community's going to be doing the NSA analysis.
Oh yeah.
It's back here. I see.
Well, I see the next game in the corner behind your behind the chair. I see the next game. You can't see it because it's cropped, but it looks really good.
That's what made me laugh. If you guys did the Stern factory tour last year for Expo, and people walking away from that, Falcon, what's Falcon? Oh, that's the code name of their next. No, that was Foo Fighters, and it's already out, guys. Like,
hey, I'll be there in 2 weeks. If you have an Iron Maiden topper, I'll buy it because I have a spot. See?
Yeah, you got a spot for it. You need one.
Yeah. It looks a little naked right now.
Well, if you want to get a hold of us, we are loserkidpinballpodcast@gmail.com. We're on all the socials at Facebook. That's or at loserkid. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, all that jazz. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can contact us that way. We do appreciate the positive response that we've been receiving from our recent episodes, and we love hearing from you. And thanks again, George, for coming on. And I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it. Go play and stream now.
Yeah, go. I'm on my way.
Okay.